Greetings, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the NBA Breakdown. I'm your host, Cale Hammond, and joining me are Reider Hunt and Nate Svensson, a native of the great state of Utah and also a citizen of Sweden. So I'm sure you can't wait to listen to him jazz all over his pants, because Mr. from Provo, Utah. How you doing, Nate?
I'm doing great. We got the big win over the powerhouse Sixers last night.
That's a great, fantastic win for your organization. Reider, how you doing over there?
I'm doing all right.
Nice. So we got 8 solid games tonight, which in my opinion is probably the perfect number of games to pick from. I like 6, I like 7, 8 is great number. We're gonna have some high scoring contests. First things first, let's talk about one thing that you guys need to do for your lineups today, and that is make sure when you have guys that are playing like Anthony Davis, James Harden, DeMarcus Cousins, Russell Westbrook, even some Steph Curry. Who else? Who am I missing? Anyone?
I mean, I think you got the...
Yeah, the main guys. When you have those guys able to pick, you have to roster at least 2 of them right now. You have to find the value. You have to find a way to do it. Because right now, if you're not rostering Westbrook and Harden and Davis, you're missing out on 75, 85, 95-point fantasy performances. And honestly, the opportunity cost of not paying up for 2 guys that are over 10, 11K and not having them on your lineup, it's just not worth it. Because what we're seeing from these guys is unbelievable. It's remarkable. They're just absolutely exploding on a nightly basis. So you got to put 2 of those guys, whether it be James Harden, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, who else? DeMarcus Cousins, Steph Curry. You have to put 2 of them in your lineups right now for the time being. That's just my take. I don't know what if you guys don't have any thoughts on that.
No, I feel like you're definitely right, and it's just what's happening right now in the NBA. Like you always talk about, it's just absurd what these guys are doing. It's really fun to watch.
It's crazy. We gotta make sure we enjoy it, because it might not happen, and it might not be like this forever.
I mean, and we saw this strategy work out in your own lineup last night with AD and DeMarcus.
Exactly.
It's just what you have to do right now.
Yep, it's just the way you got to play right now. Sometimes you got to pay up, and sometimes you got to go cheaper. But right now you got to pay up for these. I like to call them gods, basically, just gods of basketball. First game, we've got Memphis versus New Orleans, minus 1.5 for the Grizz, 190 over-under. Anthony Davis should be in a lot of your lineups. Those Twin Towers, they're tough over there in Memphis, but I mean, like we said, Anthony Davis is about as matchup-proof as you can possibly be, except for Russell Westbrook. But look, I mean, Zebo is a monster, so make sure to roster him. Marc Gasol, I'm not really feeling him in this game. Mike Conley, 5,900. Definitely have some shares of Conley. Tony Allen is still continuing to hit value at that 3,700, 3,800 price tag. He's providing excellent value the past few weeks. I mean, Anthony Davis, Zebo, Mike Conley, Tony Allen. Anyone else you guys are seeing from this one?
No, I think you're a little more high on Davis than I am today. I know he's amazing, but I think there's a player that I'm really looking at that we'll get to later at power forward. So I think there's some value to be found.
All right.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun game. AD against the Grind brothers. I kind of agree with Reider. I think AD is going to have, maybe not his best game. He's only averaging 17 and 9 in the 2 games versus Memphis this season. But again, like we just said, he's a god. He's AD, and he's at the point where if you can afford to put him on your roster, you have to do it. So it's going to be a fun game.
Yep. And tonight, I mean, there's 3 guys. There's DeMarcus Cousins, James Harden, and Anthony Davis. And I advise you to have a lot of shares of all of them. Let's move on to our next game. Phoenix versus Cleveland. Minus 11 for Cleveland, 212 over under. I mean, Nate, we were wrong about Cleveland yesterday. They could not keep up with the Hawks, it's good stuff for the Eastern Conference playoff picture. It's going to be an exciting race.
I'll tip my cap to Atlanta when we talk about them later.
Absolutely.
But I think Cleveland's gonna handle this game pretty easily. They're gonna be upset with that win yesterday. Phoenix is a mess, so I would take Cleveland minus 11.
I would definitely take Cleveland, and also I would take LeBron James against Phoenix. PJ Tucker not defending the small forward slot very well at all. LeBron James, the greatest small forward in the world. I don't necessarily like Kyrie against the quickness of that 2-guard combo in Brandon Knight and Eric Bledsoe. But Kyrie's so talented offensively that a lot of the time it really doesn't matter who guards him. But Eric Bledsoe, 45 fantasy points last night. Look for him to not quite reach that value tonight. I don't think he's going to get 45 fantasy points tonight. He's certainly capable. I just don't think it's going to happen. Brandon Knight, still underpriced. I'm definitely going to have some shares of him today. Anything you're seeing from this one, guys?
Yeah, I think Brandon Knight's a good contest play for sure. I'm not sure I can trust him in cash games. He just hadn't been that good from a fantasy perspective since he's been over to Phoenix, but I definitely think against Kyrie Irving, as we all know, Kyrie Irving is not typically known as a plus defender. So I think he's a good contest play.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So move on to Sacramento versus Miami. Once again, Ray McCollum, a cheap option at the point guard position. DeMarcus Cousins and Rudy Gay. I'm really excited to see Whiteside and Cousins battle during this game. From a fantasy point of view, I just have a feeling that Whiteside doesn't quite understand the size of this mountain that he's going to have to climb today. And even if he does, sometimes it just doesn't matter with Boogie. I mean, Whiteside's shown he's a very capable defender, but like you said, it just doesn't matter sometimes with this with the Boogie Monster. What are you guys' thoughts on him today?
Yeah, well, it's just so weird. He only had 2 rebounds last night in 20 minutes. That's just something we have not seen from him.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He gets so many rebounds per game. I don't know really what happened. I didn't really watch the game, but I definitely think Cousins could keep him under control today.
Yeah, funny. The interesting stat I ran across, this was accurate as of yesterday before he kind of laid the egg, but before that, Hassan Whiteside was averaging more rebounds per 36 minutes than anyone in NBA history since Dennis Rodman, which is absurd to think about.
Incredible.
That some D-League call-up could be putting up these types of numbers. But as Cale said, it'll be interesting to see DeMarcus and Hassan go head-to-head, see if Hassan can prove that, his numbers aren't aligned and that he can really be a center for years to come in the NBA.
Yep. And another thing to remember with Hassan Whiteside, his fantasy point per minute is just off the charts, but going up against the big Boogie Cousins, I mean, he's clearly a candidate to get in foul trouble. So take that with a grain of salt. Bask Monster projects him 47 tonight. I think he might get in foul trouble. I think he's not going to see his full allotment of minutes that would allow him to reach that 47-point mark. Other players, I think Goran Dragic is definitely worth a look. He's starting to have some decent games. Dwayne Wade, what do you guys think about him recently? He's been playing pretty well.
Yeah, I was just about to talk about Dwayne Wade. I don't think anybody is necessarily worse at guarding the shooting guard than Ben McLemore himself, but my God. Yeah, I mean, Wade sat out yesterday kind of unexpectedly. There wasn't any word about it until really they started the game, but if he plays today, I'd really like him. What do you guys think?
Right. I completely agree. I think having Goran Dragic on that team takes some of the pressure off him to be the primary playmaker, so he can kind of save his body and pick his moments, and I think that helps his overall fantasy bottom line. And I like
he had
as well.
Really good game last game too. So.
All right, so that's probably it from that game. Indiana versus New York Knicks. I really don't want to talk about this one, so if you guys have anything in your notes for this one, let's hear it.
Yeah, any game where a team is starting Langston Galloway, who sounds like he's a character from The Great Gatsby, I just don't have any interest in.
I really do.
Yeah.
George Hill is definitely the guy you want to target for the Pacers, in my opinion. But other than that, unless you guys are seeing anything,
I think Ian Mahinmi may be a decent play because last game. He played a lot of minutes even though he didn't start, and he had 32 fantasy points for $3,500. This game could be a blowout like it was last night, and I think he could see some minutes. That could be a contest play.
Right, you are, Ken. Another guy is Lou Emerson for $3,200. I mean, he's cheap as can be. He's minimum salary, and if you look at his Bass Monster ratios the last game, they've been in the green, which is what you want to see. I'm not going to have too many shares of Lou Emerson, but as cheap filler, he's certainly an option today. I think that covers it for the Knickerbockers. Let's go to Atlanta versus Philadelphia. And you guys know the drill here. You've seen it before. It's going to be a blowout. If you're picking Hawks, you're only going to get 3/4 out of them. If you're picking Sixers, you're an idiot. I think Schroeder is the play of the game in this one. Just because the guy, when he comes and gets 20 minutes, which I think he's a lock for 20 minutes tonight, because I bet he sees the entire fourth quarter, especially trying to rest their starters for the upcoming playoff picture. I think Dennis Schroeder, if he gets some significant run in this game, is just going to tear this Philadelphia defense apart. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I'm like I always say, it's hard to pick it's really hard to pick the Hawks. It's
They're
just
like the Spurs.
Exactly.
Yeah, they spread the ball around so well. It's hard to find any value.
Reader, you're no
and on the
Spurs
Philly
policy.
side, it's just, what do you think about that?
I just want to give a big shout out to Atlanta in general. Cale and I both picked Cleveland to win that game yesterday, but the team effort that the Hawks put forth was just absolutely
Ashton
swarming.
Everybody, Teague, Millsap, Horford, Schroeder, even Kyle Korver, who's no longer shooting the ball like he's Legolas. When, Legolas pulls out his arrow.
With the purple arrows.
And you're like, all right, he's going to hit an orc in the jugular. That's how Kyle Korver was shooting the
Shooting
three.
2 arrows at a time.
It's not like that anymore, but it's the team effort that they put forth is unbelievable. On defense as well, I'm hoping Johnny Boy can edit this GIF I found of Teague with a chase down block on Irving, and it just kind of embodies what this team's all about. And they're so fun to watch from a fan's perspective.
They've got 10, 11 players just playing their role and playing it well. Let's see. I think that covers it for that game. Portland versus Minnesota. Once again, we got Robin Lopez 4K. Good things happening for Robin Lopez at that price tag. Ricky Rubio, Basque Monster projects him for 47 tonight. Wow. I'll have a few Ricky Rubios in my lineup tonight for sure if Bass Monster's projecting 47. I really don't think it's going to be that high, but the computers are seeing something, and they know more than I. So it's a battle of my wits versus artificial intelligence tonight. What do you guys think about Ricky Rubio in this spot?
Yeah, I don't mind Rubio here at all. He's always a candidate for triple-double, which is really what you want, and especially in the contest. Lillard, people kind of have been torching him, but
yeah, they sure have. And Ricky Rubio, believe it or not, he plays pretty tough defense. He's not the most.
He does.
He's not the. I mean, he's quick. He's not the most physically imposing defender. But at the same time, he can pester. He can pester you.
He's got a pretty boy reputation, but he gets a lot of steals.
Yeah, he's got sticky fingers.
Good on-ball defense.
Absolutely, he does. Sticky fingers, plays good off-ball defense. Let's see. Do you guys think he's going to reach his 47 points projected tonight?
That's a lot of points.
I think 47 is really steep. I mean, they're projecting him for
seems a bit excessive to me.
They're projecting him to have 16 points, 8 boards, 10 assists, 2.5 steals.
And I mean, we all know how many Ricky Rubio games we've seen where he finishes with 4 points. So let's.
Right.
One player I do want to say that I like, especially with Wes Matthews being out, which, by the way, is a tragedy.
It's unfortunate. It's a tragedy.
Love the way he plays. Portland's going to miss him in the playoffs. But with him being out, I like Andrew Wiggins.
Yep.
For the T-Wolves. He's averaging almost 19, 4, and 3 over the past month. I think the kid's the real deal.
Yep.
And I think he's too athletic for a Flalo to guard. So
Absolutely.
I think that could be an interesting matchup to keep an eye out on.
Absolutely. And along with the Rockets versus Denver game, this is really one you want to key in on and focus in on. Aaron Aflalo is going to fill in for Wesley Matthews. He's going to be seeing a ton of minutes. Aaron Aflalo is clearly in a decline as far as his career goes. But still, look for him to be capable of some 25, 30 fantasy point games, that 4K price tag. Let's see. I don't like Kevin Martin tonight. Gorgie Dang, definitely an option in the mid 5K range. He's going to be seeing a bulk of the minutes with Pekovic out. Anything else you guys are seeing from this one? Obviously, Nick Batum at that mid 5K
Nick Batum
price tag.
had a really good game last game. Had 42 fantasy points. I don't know if he does that again, but I definitely don't mind him.
All right, well, let's move on to Milwaukee versus Washington versus Milwaukee. All right, let's keep this one short. I'm going to target Gortat, probably Gortat only from this one. The guy's been just killing his value threshold as of late, and Milwaukee is pretty poor defending the center position. What do you guys think on this one?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I don't think this game is something that I'm going to be targeting too heavily at all. So.
Yeah.
I mean, Washington's looked so rough as of late. They've lost 12 of 16. It's tough to, put a lot of stock in them.
Yeah.
I'll take Milwaukee minus 4.5 if that's the gambling you're into, because I don't trust Washington to win an NBA game right now.
Yeah, neither do I. And you know what? I don't really like that many players from the Bucks. Michael Carter-Williams, I thought he was going to come in and just start killing it in Milwaukee, because Brandon Knight was killing it in Milwaukee. But I think Brandon Knight is better at basketball than Michael Carter-Williams. I think Brandon Knight has been an underrated player for quite some time, and I think he's making a good leap forward this year.
I agree with that, and I think MCW, his stats were padded by being on the Sixers. I think we're going to see a lot of these players from the tanking era of the Sixers go and get a shot with another team. I could see Tony Rowan going somewhere else not being as good just because you're in a situation where you're going to put up all these empty stats and lose $1 billion.
Losing 85% of your games. And if you're losing 85% of your games as an athlete, it's really, really, really tough to recover from that.
Demoralizing.
It's just not. It's not something that many athletes could be able to handle for 3 years, 2 years of just loot. What's Carter Williams' record? It's probably like 20-something and 140.
If he's won 20% of his games, I'll eat a hat.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no way he's won that.
It's a lie.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, it's just tough. That's probably why he's not doing it. Ilyasova is another guy. I mean, Andrea Bargnani and Ersan Ilyasova are projected mid-30 fantasy points. Ilyasova's not quite up there. Bargnani's 30 fantasy points. But anytime these guys are up there on the Bask Monster ratios, it's just not a nice day. No one wants to win with the Bargnani-Ilyasova lineup. That's just not fun for any party involved. We hate picking those guys. I'm sure you hate picking those guys. No one wants a lineup with Bargnani and Ilyasova in it. So let's move on to Houston versus Denver. 208.5 minus 5.5. Give me some T. Jones in this one. T. Jones is a savage. This guy plays hard, and I think he's a big reason why the Rockets continue to be so tough as of late.
Did you see that stretch he had? He had 2 monster rejections back to back. Again, we'll try to have Johnny Boy edit this.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys. But he's playing, since he's come back from injury, the front line of the Rockets has looked really, really good.
Much, much better. I wrote this down in a podcast a few days ago. Terrence Jones has an uncanny ability to block what are seemingly open jumpers. He just takes his gigantic leap out there, outstretches those 7-foot wingspan, and just gets his big paw on the ball. And it's just he's getting 3 blocks a game right now, and that's significant fantasy point value. James Harden. I mean, what more can we say? The guy is just a god. Get him in at least 2/3 of your lineup. Reider, what are you thinking about the Denver side of the ball?
Guy that I'm really loving, the guy that I was talking about earlier, my power forward play, I think Kenneth Faried. He's just been so good since Shaw's been gone, which is that whole team is that's just so funny, especially what Kevin Garnett said. But
Kevin Garnett, just to clarify, you probably heard of it. Kevin Garnett basically came out and said this team absolutely 100% quit on their coach,
and they did. He's right.
Yeah, he's absolutely right.
But Faried has had 36.5, 46.5, 38.5 in his last 3 games. He's still really cheap for the small for his power forward spot.
For his projected score, he's quite cheap as well.
Yeah, and he has a high ratio. I just think there are a lot of things to like about him tonight. Yep. And Houston is
absolutely.
They haven't been necessarily good against power forward spot.
No, they really haven't. They've been second worst the last 25 days according to Bask Monster. If Ty Lawson tries, he'll do well. What incentive do you think Ty Lawson has to actually try and win this ballgame tonight?
6 weeks. You heard their break. Do you remember that? The 3-2-1 6 weeks. They're looking to get the hell out of this season.
They sure are.
With you. I just want to bring up, I think it's an absolute travesty that this spread is only 5.5.
Oh, yeah.
Denver's a train wreck.
Yep.
I think Houston handily wins this game behind.
Yep. I think James Harden just gets another 30-point, 8 assist, 3 steal.
Another MVP caliber performance, and I think they easily cover that spread.
I sure do. So don't be afraid to target your Houston Rockets. Pat Beverly is another guy I like. He's in the low 4K range. He's a great option for cheap filler at the point guard slot. Don't think Denver's going to be playing too much defense against Pat Beverly today. I think he's going to hit some wide open threes. James Harden's definitely going to set him up for some open shots, open opportunities. Donatas Motiejunas, a little disappointing yesterday. I still think he's a candidate to get 30 points on any given night. A guy with that kind of size, with that offensive prowess, is a great fantasy play if he's getting the right allotment of minutes. Anything else you guys are seeing from this one?
Yeah, last guy I'm kind of looking at is Gallinari. He's really playing well. I mean, it's really hard to trust Gallinari, but the way he's been playing, he's finally seeing a good amount of minutes, and the Shaw carousel of players is not there anymore. So
the Shaw era is over. Ugh. Thank the Lord.
But I think Gallinari, he's been playing really well, so he might see a couple lineups of mine.
Yep, absolutely. So now it's time for your recommended lineup of the day. At the point guard slot, I've got Dennis Schroeder just because I think he's going to get around 23 minutes, which is more than enough for him to get 20 fantasy points against this Philadelphia 76ers train wreck. James Harden because he's a god with the greatest beard. Second greatest beard of all time. Crazy Gaby's beard is better than James Harden's. Crazy Gaby's not better than James Harden, but his beard is fiercer. Tony Allen, 3,800. The guy, look at his Bassmaster ratios. The guy's been crushing his ratio. Last 2 games have been well over 20 fantasy points for 3.8K. Kenneth Faried, great upside at the power forward slot. If you're feeling delicious, slot Terrence Jones in there. I predict Terrence Jones is a lock for 35, 40 fantasy points. Robin Lopez at 4K. He's going to be doing great against that Minnesota interior. I don't think Gorgie Dang is going to be able to stymie him too much. Aaron Aflalo with the shooting guard. This is where I get a little scared. Aaron Aflalo is known to give you some significant duds, but I feel like since this is the first game, he's going to start at that at that shooting guard position. This is why they brought him here. Wesley Matthews is out. It's his time to at least contribute and help the cause. Look for him to have a solid game. Anthony Davis is in my lineup just because I love Anthony Davis, and I think he's about to go on a tear. All these guys are going on tears right now. Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis. Russell Westbrook, James Harden. I think it's time for Anthony Davis to go on his tear. And at the utility, we've got a couple options. We've got a 6,200 remaining. We can either slot in Marcin Gortat, who's one of my plays for Washington, playing exceptionally well. Nick Batum, who I think I might as well slot him in right now. I'm going to go with Nick Batum in this one just because Wesley Matthews is out. He's a significant offensive component for this team. Or you could go with Mike Conley, who's going to be providing solid value at 6K versus a New Orleans team who Russell Westbrook torched for 80 fantasy points twice. Anything you guys seeing in this lineup? Any comments? Critiques?
No, I think that's a really solid lineup. I think Batum's kind of the play for me at least over Conley.
Absolutely.
At that price range, but just because I want to try and expose myself to that Portland Minnesota game a little bit more than I am. So.
Yep. That's definitely a good idea. Best of luck with all your contests. I hope you win a ton of money. Thanks for joining us on today's breakdown. See you later.